Good evening. I'd like to call to order the February 27th Planning Board meeting to order. The first thing on tonight's agenda is the minutes from the 13th.
I move that we table those because our clerk is not here, clerk secretary.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment? Hearing none, moving on. Applicant James Ware et al., plan of land to merge lots into four lots into one located at Gansett Road. Assessors maps, I'm going to skip reading the number. This is the third time we've heard this. This is an A&R. Do I hear a motion to endorse?
I move that we endorse the plan without regard to buildability, et cetera.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second, applicant James Ware et al., a plan of land to divide the one lot that we just made into 5 lots at Gansett Road. The assessor's maps, the plans have been in the planning office for weeks. We've all seen them. This is the third or fourth time. Do we hear a motion to endorse?
Wait a minute, I have one question before. It's to satisfy my curiosity. It has nothing to do with an A&R, and you may or may not wish to answer this, but this is the first time we've seen those 3 tiny lots that have no access to the roadway. And I'm just curious why they're there.
For the applicant, would you please come up and explain this mystery if you can?
I'm Bob Ament. I represent the applicant. Actually, it's stated right on the plan that the parcels are to be conveyed to an adjacent lot on the, I think it's the south side of the lot that you've got in front of you. So all along, we've been merging lots, reducing the number of lots, not extending the road, and just creating bigger lots, adjusting the lot line.
Okay, but,
Just what you thought, maybe how.
yeah,
Mr. Hammond, is the south side, that's confusing to me, is that the point of Gansett Point?
See, arrow north?
The point is the north side. The
Show
point
the
is
arrow.
north.
You just covered the
Oh,
arrow.
this side.
You just covered the arrow. Now, north and south.
North.
This way, south
South.
towards you.
so,
And the properties you're looking at, those are,
Where's the
I mean, that's an
point?
existing
The point
house.
is out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
and
So
those
it's-
are the 3 lots over there being transferred to
Got
there.
it, okay. Just wanted to
Okay.
know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This whole thing is starting to wear on me.
Okay, then I move that we endorse this plan without regard to buildability, et cetera.
Second?
All in favor?
Question,
Aye.
Questions?
question. So if it gets endorsed, what will be on the plan? What's it going to say regarding buildability?
No endorsed without any aspect of buildability, period.
And that'll be for 2 lots, is that what I'm seeing
All of
here?
them. Everything on the plan. We're not talking about buildability.
Well, it looks like they're being merged into 2 separate lots in the final analysis.
Well, there's only one building lot shown on this plan.
Yep.
Which one is that, please?
Well, it's the one that has the house on it.
That's lot 80A? Is that correct?
I believe you're actually looking at a plan that only
It'll
shows
be
the one lot and doesn't
3.9
show any of the
acres.
unbuildable parcels.
It'll be almost 4
It's the
acres. The
one
lot
sheet
that's
under, John.
3.9 acres is the only buildable lot, correct?
Correct, 3.99 acres.
3.99.
So this is the correct one?
Yes, that is the second plan,
The
the
second
one
one,
that's
there's
before
2. We
you.
did one
So this is the one we're voting on now?
right now.
So we're just,
And- Okay,
See those 3 little
Yep,
lots
I
on
see
the
it.
south side?
I got it.
And then
Thank you.
there's the note on that, John, that
Yep.
says this endorsement is without regard to zoning and buildability and should not be construed as an approval that any lot shown is entitled to a building permit. So that covers the lots.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? John, you need some more time?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. Let me show this pretty picture. I have to recuse myself from this next. Pat, you'll take over?
I shall. I've got to get my papers organized here.
What's the agenda?
I've got it, but I'm just trying to get down to where I need to be here. Okay. Planning board discussion slash decision. Applicant is T-Ticket Car Wash LLC. Site plan review to construct a car wash located at 187 T-Ticket Highway, adding over 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Falmouth Engineering, Inc. And we have a motion here. Bob, do you want to read that?
Sure. 21418 draft motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of T-Ticket Car Wash LLC under Article 39, site plan review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Site Plan Proposed Improvements for number 187 T-Ticket Highway prepared for Clint Kendall in Falmouth, Mass., prepared by Falmouth Engineering dated November 15th, 2017. Scale 1 inch equals 10 feet, 2 sheets including a landscape plan entitled Landscape Plan for number 187 T-Ticket Highway prepared for Clint Kendall in Falmouth, Mass., prepared by Falmouth Engineering dated February 1st, 2018. Scale 1 inch equals 10 feet, 1 sheet, along with floor plans and elevations entitled Falmouth Car Wash 187 T-Ticket Highway, Falmouth, Mass. 02540, that should be 02536. Prepared by Bruce Renee, Hamilton Architects, dated December 12, 2017, scaled as noted, 5 sheets with the following findings and conditions. Findings. The applicant seeks to raise an existing structure and build a new structure, car wash, on the parcel located at 187 T-Ticket Highway, map number 3914-024B000, along with associated parking, drainage, and landscaping. The parcel is .56 acres of land, 24,200 square feet, in Zone Business 2, B2. The site lies within the Little Pond Coastal Overlay District. The applicant's attention is directed to Falmouth Water Department referral dated January 22nd, 2018, and the need to apply to the Water Department for an upgraded service and approval of a backflow prevention device. The parcel is located in the Little Pond Overlay District and will be connecting to the existing municipal sewer and T-Ticket Highway. The Planning Board has reviewed the proposed floor plans and elevations and find the architectural design appropriate for this area's setting. The applicant submitted a revised landscape plan per the request of the Planning Department. The board finds the design and landscaping suitable for the proposed use of the site. Conditions. 1. The plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the Planning Board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to Section 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the Planning Board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, the applicant will provide painted directional arrows for traffic circulating onto and off of the site, along with wayfaring signage upon entering the site, delineating services for car wash lanes and vacuuming stations. 3, the applicant will provide a bike rack for employees.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now we need discussion, if any.
I just wanted to see if I can get a clarification on the landscaping plan. Is this the revised plan that we have in front of us?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm reading the legend, so I understand the plantings that are scheduled for here. I'm just not sure about all the areas we see in green. Is that going to be a lawn? Is that, it doesn't say on the plan here. Not that I can see anywhere. So I'm curious.
I thought that's what they had said. I'm not sure,
I
John.
thought when it was green on the colored plans, that was grass.
All grass and then the yellow areas showing the plantings.
Yeah.
Would be where the plantings are, and they'd be
So can we make
scaled.
that part of the landscaping condition? I don't see it on the legend, and I don't remember the testimony. In fact, I don't remember asking the question, so. I just would hate to see it all be this mulch,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
it looks so nice on the plan here, and it is gonna be a new centerpiece for the T-Ticket area.
It's a good point. I don't think it came up. I think we all just assumed it.
What if we just simply refer to the applicant will create the landscape plan as submitted, dated whatever the date was on that?
Well, excuse me, I don't have a problem with that, but it doesn't,
It would have to be with the understanding that this shaded area is lawn, as we understand it. But there's not,
Because there's nothing in there
it's not
about
on a
lawn.
legend.
I mean, the representative for the applicant is here, I believe.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know how everybody feels about that, but
I feel that we need to,
it is gonna be a nice improvement for the area, however.
Yeah.
Want to make sure it shows as nicely as it shows on the plan here.
So
Can we do that without delaying the vote?
I should think we could make that condition number 4
Great.
and vote on it as
I
part of
mean,
it.
you can talk to a representative of the applicant. if
I
you'd
would like to.
If you'd like to, or we can condition.
Normally, after the hearing's closed, you know,
You can,
the
we
site
can
plan review.
condition that the green parts of the landscape plan be grass, since it's not clarified on the landscape plan.
So John, you can make a motion.
Except there's several greens.
Yeah, I make a motion that this green shaded area on the plan be lawn or grass, whatever the proper term is.
Okay.
Grass. I think.
Grass, okay.
I don't know what the proper term is. You're the builder, come on.
Oh, I'm, green side up is all I know about landscape.
So, okay, do we have a
So a
second?
second? I'll second that.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that the green, shall we say the
The large green,
large green, the mid-green
yeah.
The
area,
majority shaded green area be delineated as grass.
as grass? Okay. I think that makes it more clear instead of lawn.
Yeah, and that would appear on the legend.
Mhm. So that would have to be modified?
Do you want a revised plan? On the legend?
We're putting it in the condition.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I mean, that is what it is, it's long.
Yeah.
I mean, you could condition a revised plan prior to the submit.
And that a revised,
Revised
Landscape plan be
showing
supplied.
the legend
Showing.
with grass prior to the site plan review decision being given to the applicant.
I like that, okay?
Okay.
And you're okay with that, Kevin?
So all they're doing is adding to the legend.
They're adding to
Yeah.
the legend,
That's it.
and we're putting that in the condition that
Yeah.
has to be supplied.
Can I request one thing on that?
What?
We have zoning this week, and I think they'd like to see the decision prior to the hearing, so I'm fine with nothing released to me.
You're gonna get the decision.
Oh, that Cory said prior to the decision being released.
If the planning board's okay with the decision being.
Because that condition will be in there.
Sure,
and
yeah,
that-
we could
Yeah.
add that, yeah.
They've been cooperative right down the line.
Sure, yeah.
So I don't see any reason that Kevin can't have the decision to take to the ZBA.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yep.
assuming the ZBA would like to see that change too, but who knows?
Presuming you get a positive vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, you're right, John. Okay, so it has been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
Only that I think it's a very nice improvement, and the applicant has apparently worked diligently with the board to come up with an attractive building and a beautiful landscape, so.
I concur too.
So this is John's motion that we're voting on now, right?
We have to vote on John's motion first.
Okay.
Okay, so for the condition number 4 as proposed by John and seconded by Charlotte, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we go to the main motion,
As amended.
As amended.
as amended. And are there any further comments or corrections on this? Okay, seeing no hands raised, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, when do you think the building will be done?
Talk to me after Thursday.
Assuming that goes well.
I mean, I think you're right, if it's going to there, but I don't know.
Yeah, because it's a nice change when it comes.
It's really very
It'll
attractive.
be good, yeah.
Besides, I can use a car wash.
Planning board discussion, Davis Straits multifamily district.
I'm glad to see it on the
On the
agenda,
agenda.
but I do not have anything to discuss this time.
We haven't met.
No.
since then.
That's okay.
But it will continue on the agenda.
Well, I think it's important for, just to mention at this time, that the public, anyone that's interested, should absolutely go on our website, look at the Davis Straits Reset Plan, read it carefully and understand what we're talking about, and come to our next meeting to discuss it with us if you have any issues.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
If people would come, because we held one stakeholder meeting and did not get a response. It might have been too early, but, so we've effectively had no on-the-record public input, and it would be great to have that. Thank you.
Right,
So may I ask a question regarding it?
sure.
We're not really discussing, but a question. Charlotte, have you had any further input from the Cape Cod Commission as to any?
No, and
They're
they,
overdue.
I would
they're-
really be curious to find out, as we talked about before a little bit, the density of like Mashpee Commons.
Well, there is we did have I was present at the Democratic
Town committee.
Town Committee meeting. We had Heather Harper there, and she gave Cape Cod Commission, she's the housing director, not director, but the associate in charge of housing, and the first question I asked that night, what do you think the density should be in working on trying to solve affordable housing issues? And she used the number 20 units per acre.
Right,
But she also stressed,
at least.
but she also stressed there were also, she kept mentioning the word form in there too. So that the idea that everyone should understand is we are also gonna have the Cape Cod Commission come talk to us about form zoning and this, and not really look at density, but just say, okay, how many, put as many, we have a building like that, it's perfect for housing, it's on the sewer, fit the units in you want, basically, with a limit, but basically looking more at what the building looks like, the shape, and how it fits into the neighborhood, than whether it's 2 units, 3 units, or 4 units. I'll bring up a classic example, I've said it before, we have buildings on Main Street that are 3 stories high, and they're on half acre, which means they can have 3 units. They're 8,000, the floors are 4,000, 12,000 square feet, 4 on each floor, and they're only allowed to have 3 units. So the second and third floors would be, 5,000, 6,000 square foot units to use them all. It just doesn't make any sense. So we have to fix some of that.
Well, we're also like discussing mixed use.
And mixed use, yeah,
Development,
absolutely. And at the same time, I want the Cape Cod Commission to come to us and talk to us about, Bob and I talked a little about this, as a minimum residential unit. So that kind of making them put 2 units in, or 3 units, or 4 units. So that what that does is they can't just build a great big flat commercial building, flat roof, and just fill up the whole area with commercial buildings when we really feel we need mixed use in housing. So we're not a decision, but that's an idea that we want to discuss.
Well, and Heather seemed very much in line with other things we've discussed, too. The conversation was general at that point in the meeting, and someone suggested, well, you could put them up on 151, these things. And no, the best way to deal with it is to put them where the sewers are,
Right.
and to put them where you'd have the correct zoning for it, and
Heather
that
said
wouldn't
that.
be up there, and that would
Yes,
be
she did.
against, yes, she did, and that would be
Somebody in
against all the
audience suggested
discussions.
to basically moving away from
Yeah.
the, no sprawl,
Yeah.
smart growth things that we've been doing for the 6 years that I've been on the
Right.
board, it may be longer than that, I'll defer to your judgment on that. But there was some push to, I'll just push it out there.
Yeah.
And,
Well, Jim, town meeting has been asked to rezone that so there could be density out there. At least twice that I remember, and potentially 3 times, and they voted it down.
well, and we talked in the local comprehensive plan, that those are the areas we want to make even larger lots to protect the water, because that's where it all comes, our drinking water comes from that area. And that where we have areas that we want to redevelop areas that are already built.
And
that
we
we
talk
rebuilt.
about, Falmouth is a big town, covers a lot of square miles, and by pushing development further and further out, it just adds to the cost of doing business. The DPW and the fire department, the police department, it just adds to their burden. And of course, nobody wants to pay any taxes, so you're not going to increase the services by doing that. So it's not a good idea.
One other thing that came up at that meeting too, in Heather's presentation, that was totally different than what we've been told in the past, is she said that we're growing as a town. I know, I said to her, I raised my hand, I said the question, but the Cape Cod Commission, they are saying that they are now seeing some,
Yeah, because you
Some
questioned
growth.
her population number.
your population
She said our
numbers.
population was 32. Cape Cod Times said that it was 28,000, I think, just less than a year ago.
Right, 28 or 29.
So,
Right,
but
the other
anyways-
interesting thing she said, she corrected the idea that we're losing young people. She said, we're not losing young people, they're aging in place. When this census was taken, they were 25 years old, then they're 30, 35. They're not leaving, we're just not getting new ones to come in.
Right, we're not getting,
Oh,
so in
we're not-
essence,
We're
right,
losing
we're
that
not
age
losing, we're
group, but they're
losing the
not
age
those
group.
individuals.
Okay.
but those will
Yeah.
be things that Brian promised us. We were supposed to have 2 people come from the Cape Cod Commission and have a discussion on these
Right.
exact same issues almost 60 days ago.
Yeah, it was Sharon Rooney and I.
Yeah, so that
somebody else,
needs to
I
be
can't
on our
remember.
agenda after town meeting. Okay?
Can I talk for a
Sure.
second? I did meet with Sharon Roding last Thursday about the DCPC project for Davis Straits. So we have to kind of bring forward an application and set the boundaries for that DCPC section of town that we want to put under review. So obviously, very limited staff in the planning department. So we're kind of chipping away with it with Bob Shea and GIS, getting the map set. But we have to work with you guys in terms of where do we want to set out the DCPC district. And most likely, Sharon had recommended following where the sewering is now and in the future, and potential floodplain areas to kind of increase the potential to approve the application. So there's certain criteria in the application we have to meet prior to them accepting it. So I did meet with her last week. I mean, it's moving forward at a snail's pace, but
Well, I think we wanted to have a meeting with us. I mean, that's the
Right.
point I was trying to get
Yeah.
at. We wanted to have a planning board discussion with them on these issues.
Yeah, but we need to kind of move forward the application a little bit, get certain parts of the application completed, and then they can review and then come meet with you guys.
I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing. What we had asked was that they would come speak to us about bylaws changes that would be needed in order to implement the multifamily planning that was outlined in the Davis Strait plan that they already did.
Right.
So it's pretty narrow.
And form-based zoning.
Yeah, and but
Yes,
that
including form-based zoning.
multifamily zone is kind of integrated into that DCPC.
Okay, so you're using the DCPC to describe the rectangle we're talking about doing this in?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so you're describing a larger envelope in which,
Correct. The multifamily,
wherever we'd like to see multifamily in that
Correct,
larger
yeah.
envelope.
right.
But I think the point that I'm trying to make is we want to have, that's like a catch-22. They can't come talk to us until we figure out more what we're doing, and we don't know what we're doing until we talk to them. We really want to have them in front of us, to have this discussion with them.
Sure.
Okay, that's,
You kind of, just let me know what you want.
as soon as you
them-
can after
Sure.
town meeting,
Okay,
okay?
put that forward to Sharon Rudy.
And we would like to keep it, I want to keep it on the agenda, so if something shows up at the last minute at any time,
We can talk
we
about
can
it.
talk about it, because I don't want to, so I want it to stay on the agenda, whether we use it or not.
Sure.
Great.
Is that?
Works for me.
Because that's what we did with the accessory apartment bylaw, we just said, keep it on the agenda. Just,
Yeah.
we hammered
If
away
that's
at it.
something, fine, if not, fine.
Yeah,
No, that was a good pattern, and you had started to outline informally the pattern that you followed, the process that you followed for the approval for that worked so well, that laid out public hearings and ways to make presentations, and maybe we should see that layout too, so
Right.
that we can start moving on it.
it was, once we figured out what we wanted, that's the part I want to, we haven't done with
Yeah.
this one yet.
Right.
Let's figure what we want. We had at-length discussions on this board, bought into, everyone was on the same page, and then we started having meetings. Well, we did have one or two open public meetings, they were all open. But the last two we invited, invitations were sent to town meeting members
Uh-huh,
directly.
yeah,
And we went as far as, towards the end, of actually making a video with FCTV discussing it on all the points, and we sent that to all the town meeting members. So by the time, and then Brian held it off for a year, so we had another, for 6 months to do it again, so, to talk about it. So we had meetings at the Herman Room, I think twice, and we had meetings here, so there was many opportunities.
And now, after it's passed, so that we know there'll be some kind of accessory apartment bylaw, we're having to meet again with the Health Commission, the water people. I wonder how we could amend that process to get that folded in advance. No?
No, because what happens is, when you do something, a change like this, first of all, there was an accessory apartment bylaw,
Yes,
and we felt that it wasn't used as much as we would like to see it used.
right. So it was a substitution bylaw that you put in.
Yeah, now, at this meeting that I'm gonna be reporting on, I think Cerise said there were something like 200 accessory apartments already that she had in record. So it's not that it wasn't used, but it wasn't used as much as we would like to see it used,
And
in the way we'd like to see it.
And the difference is, we deliberately said, okay, we're not going to argue with the Board of Health. They do their stuff. And we're not going to argue with the building department, because that's not our job. That's building code issues. So the fact that they're having trouble with those issues now are really not our problem. If we would have, the bylaw never would have passed. If we would have ironed out all those details, we'd be talking it on forever and ever and ever. The goal was to pass the bylaw and let the health department deal with all the health issues, and let them have their public hearings, and people complain about them, why are you doing this, that? Because we don't have a say.
Yeah,
We can't tell them, oh, you should.
It's even more than that, though, Jim, because when you start on something like this, it's only when you try to make it happen that you find out where the wrinkles are. A lot
It
of
wasn't a
That's true.
mistake,
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah, so,
It was intentional.
well, it was
Okay.
sort of. But some of these things that are coming out now,
There
Jim,
was mistakes, too.
yeah, you wouldn't have known
But
about.
we totally overlooked not putting it in general residential.
Mm-hmm.
We learn things as we go, but the idea was to start the process.
well, it makes sense. You can't wait until something's perfect. Nothing will
Sure.
get
Right.
done.
And Brian
And I
actually said
understand
that a
that.
number of times. He said, just need to get something, and then, because you can always add or amend
amend
it
it.
or
Yeah.
The
change
goal was
it.
to get the 2/3 vote,
Okay.
and that's what we did.
'Cause
I'm getting
that's what it
clear.
takes.
Yes. And Brian held us back until he felt comfortable that we had our ducks in a row to get the 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
Not that it was perfect, but the Board of Health had all their own issues to solve, and well, we're going to get more of this in just a few minutes, because Pat's going to bring up,
Right, we're going to get some detail on
I'm
this.
hoping you guys read,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about that.
Well,
I know.
So, we're going to be going over these exact same issues again.
Well, thank you, Corey, for getting this started and moving along, and we'll hope to be able to see them here with us right after town meeting.
Okay.
That's
When
it.
it comes to getting something perfect, I have yet to see a perfect bylaw in this entire book,
oh, yeah.
so.
So that's our discussion tonight for accessory. Anybody else there want to comment? Okay, we'd like to have you come again, please. Okay, now the next thing is, after our joint meeting with all the other boards in town and some recommendations that were made, it was decided that we needed to have an advisory committee to do a review of our existing bylaw. And I had nominated Pat to sit on committee to review all that, and I'm going to turn it over to Pat. She went to the meeting, I didn't.
I just ran into Rod Palmer today, and he said he thought it was a really good meeting. He's not sure that we ever decided on anything, but it was a really good meeting to have, and I agree. There were a lot of people there whose actions impinge on this bylaw, and they had a lot of good comments. There are certain things that you can see that we're going, regardless of what happens with these comments, we're going to have to make changes in the bylaw. Owner occupied, they pointed out, what does that really mean? And I thought, okay, well, we've got a lot of people down our street who don't rent their houses, but it's not occupied year-round. And so, somebody, I can't remember who it was, I think it might have been Peter, suggested that we change it to primary residence, which has a legal definition. It's where they use to vote, it's where they use to have their mail delivered. And so that's something that we should do. We should change out owner occupied for primary residence.
There's a flip side to that argument.
Of course there is.
What if they're, now, some people own more than 2 homes. Sometimes they own 3.
Point was,
As long as they're not renting it,
and that's what we have to
that's
discuss.
to me, that's the important part, okay? That only one of the residences can be rented, and the other one has to either be vacant or left for the owner to use whenever they want.
One of the reasons that we said owner occupied, and I pointed this out, and somebody else did too, is that if you have the owner living there, you're less likely to have problems in the
Right.
rental.
Right.
And that was the whole argument for allowing people to age in place and keep a bigger home.
Right.
That was the argument, figuring that people who wanted to stay in their house. And to me, it's getting a little disappointing because it looks like people are taking advantage of it. That they see dollar signs now, so they're gonna start building these. It just a little, I'm a little more trusting, I guess, of human nature, and
Yeah, I am
and I'm
too.
starting to see the unseemly side of it, and it really bothers me. And I've been upset about this past couple of weeks.
So therefore, you wouldn't want to change owner
Well,
occupied?
he's focusing on something that's particular to,
Yeah,
On
but it's the
application,
same
right?
kind of thing,
Yeah,
though.
no,
general?
no, there's been a couple others that, where property is for sale. And so they want to get this in so they can sell it to increase.
But I understand that, but you gotta keep in mind on the other aspect of it, if you said, okay, no special permits for properties that are for sale, you just shut down everything in town, because everything that you do, you apply for a special
Yeah.
permit
Yeah, I
to
realize
get
that.
it done, so.
I realize that.
That's a knee-jerk reaction that the important part is that once it's approved, if the owner doesn't occupy that and doesn't rent it out for 2 years, it lapses and goes away. You know, they can't rent it, you know, they can
Yeah.
rent one or the other, they can't rent both.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part.
Question, can we add to the definition section of the zoning?
Of course.
So you could
That's how
solve,
this started.
But is that a 2/3 vote?
No. There's a whole definition section at the front of the bylaws.
yes, there is, and because owner occupied is certainly common parlance in Boston, so
So what does the
It's
language of
defined
bylaw
somewhere.
actually has? We've been said 3 different things. What does it say, the current bylaw?
There's nothing in there about owner occupied, what it means.
Well, what does the bylaw?
it says owner occupied, but owner occupied isn't defined.
isn't defined.
It's not defined
Okay.
as
Oh, our
the issue.
bylaw says it, but
So-
there's no
So
definition of
the
what.
Right.
definition is, have the discussion on what is owner occupied.
What I should point out, that this was the first meeting, and that's why I said these are preliminary consensus points. We met for a little over 2 hours, amazing in itself that it went on that long, which indicates the enthusiasm of the people who were there and attending it. And you know, we always wondered why, if the number of bedrooms doesn't increase, why the Board of Health is going to have any kind of a problem with the septic system if it's in the house. So they're going to have to discuss that and get their policies together in line.
Right, but that's something that they need to decide, not us.
They need to, this is not just us,
Right.
this is what went on at the meeting. Virginia pointed out, and we know, that there are 4 coastal ponds that are not included in our bylaw. Brian seemed to indicate it wasn't gonna be as simple to just add their names to the list in the coastal pond bylaw. I'm not sure, I don't know one way or the other, but here's a marker for that now.
Maybe
Because-
that could be reviewed before long.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
But that's something maybe our new planner needs to deal with, if it's not so simple as just adding their names in. I don't know. I don't know why Brian seemed to think that we'd have to handle it slightly differently than just amending the bylaw by adding in the names of 4 more ponds. don't know.
Is that a Duffy question?
It may be a Duffy question, I don't know. I was just nicely taking notes here to pass
Yeah.
on,
I'll have to
I
get
don't
back
know.
to you on that one.
And Corey can ask Brian what his thought was on that.
Sure.
We have something in the bylaw that says
copy of it?
to be included, it has to be a subdivision of
Patrick
5
recording the
acres or
meeting?
5 lots and greater for it to require a D-night system. And again, Virginia pointed out, and I think we've heard that before, that that's a problem in that bylaw. She suggested language that it needs to read parcels within a coastal pond overlay district. So you hit all lots, make all lots subject to that, not just if you have 5 lots, because mostly we don't have 5 acres or 5 lot
Right.
subdivisions anymore. So she suggested that you need to look at that and change the language on that to capture,
Excuse me.
yeah,
Would that mean that anybody that wants to do an accessory apartment bylaw would have to have a denitrification system?
that's gonna be up to the
Is
Board
that
of
what that-
Health
is
to
that what that- Is that
determine.
what that change would do to?
I don't know.
Well,
Sounds like
hopefully,
it.
they're gonna say, what I heard from
Mm-hmm.
the discussion, if you're not changing the bedrooms, for instance, if you have a 4-bedroom house now, and you wanna put an accessory apartment in it, to, 1 bedroom and a kitchen in the other, and keep 3 bedrooms, that you don't need to change the septic system. Wasn't that the?
Yeah, and let's say you have an outbuilding, Doug Brown was going to do that and put an apartment in North Falmouth. I don't know whether he's gonna put in a new septic system or not, but if that was 4 bedrooms, decrease the main house by 1 bedroom, and they have ways of doing that, and put a 1-bedroom in the accessory building and send it right into the old septic system, that's already approved. You're not increasing the need.
I think the Board of Health's interpretation was it becomes more than 1 dwelling.
But they're talking about at this meeting.
Changing it.
Changing it, that was the
Changing their-
subject, right?
Changing their interpretation.
Yes.
They don't
Yes.
know what their interpretation is at this point.
Well, I know how they have been interpreting it.
Okay,
And that's how they've been interpreting it, that
okay.
it's a multifamily dwelling now, which requires,
Oh, in that manner, even if it is still in the same house, it becomes a multifamily dwelling.
correct, that's why the septic becomes an issue.
Yeah.
The existing septic. But if they change their interpretation or revise it,
Well, what they're looking is working on making it work. They had talked about maybe putting a filter in place so you wouldn't have to go to a dual tank system. That there are various ways. Steve Rafferty was bringing.
I attended their meeting Monday night.
Oh, okay. So you have better information than I have because they were just discussing it.
Well, that's what they were discussing,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
So they weren't accepting, I think it was the zoning board of appeals person, Sari, had put forward at the joint meeting, it's still a single-family house, and you're saying that the health commission is not
They're-
accepting that?
They're discussing it. They haven't made it, it was on their agenda, so they were discussing it, so.
Without resolution yet?
Correct.
Yeah, it was the first time it's really come on the agenda. And the reason they're doing it is because of this accessory apartment. It has to be determined because they just can't
We'll
keep
have to wait on
sending
that.
people away without definition.
The other thing I've heard everyone complaining about is how expensive it is to deal with the building code. But I knew that when we passed the bylaw. I have built a 2-family and a 3-family in this town, and I know you have a 2-hour rated wall, and it has to be separated, and our bylaw doesn't touch that.
Right.
It says that is state building code, and it's always gonna be state building code, because they trump us.
We can't do
We
anything
can't do
about it.
anything about it. So as much as people feel, oh my God, that's a problem, we gotta fix it, gotta change the state code, which we can't do. And I'm not, I think having fire-rated walls and doing things by the state code's a really good idea. I think
Well,
they're.
that was one of the reasons, because there are so many illegals out there.
Right, we said, yeah, we're not just gonna say, okay, just throw up a sheet rock wall and build whatever you want, that's not, we said, no, it's gotta match the state
State
building
code.
code.
And the bottom line is, okay, you look into it, you find out whether you can or can't do it, and if you can't, you can't, and if you can, you can. I know if I was to allow 40% of my house it'd be 200 square feet. I can build a shed
Yeah,
without
some
a permit
houses,
for
some
that.
houses it doesn't fit.
So for my property, it wouldn't work.
Right. It doesn't work for everybody. The trick is to try to get it work for as many people as possible.
Well, what has happened a lot, and this is why I put in here how much Holly figured out it would be between 40 and 90,000 to do any kind of a conversion, with a separate building being less expensive than converting a house.
Right, but I can understand that if you're trying to put one on top of the other and have it all around.
Yeah.
But if it's simply just having a little causeway in between where the two walls touch
Yeah,
for a
I
small
didn't
room.
question it. I just
that's-
took the
yeah.
notes on it.
That's
Yeah.
what, 20,000, you're not
Yeah.
even 10, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So you
Okay.
can explode it up or pare it down.
yeah.
Well, and it's
The-
all in contrast to what other expense you might be facing. If the problem you're trying to solve is finding a place for your aged parents to live, it's going to be far less expensive to follow the code and put in a proper accessory apartment than it is to ask them to go to assisted living, and it would cost them that every year.
Right.
So relative to other solutions, this is reasonable.
Rod Palmer said he has spoken to a dozen, and Ollie probably 30 people, her on the phone, he personally. And they just start getting glazed when they hear all of these hoops that they have to jump through, which supposedly is a by right bylaw, but as
But
Jim has been
it doesn't
pointing
say by
out.
right you get to violate the state building
That's the
code.
thing.
That's the
And so they're finding
important.
out. So one of the suggestions was that these kinds of things be in perhaps a diagram that allows for easy interpretation of somebody who's contemplating doing it, and that be on the town website. There was some objection to putting it on the town website because it's better if you talk with the people individually and help them through the hoops, but
Yeah,
I
I
could
found
be
a
said of
step-by-step
anything.
guide on the web. You know, I want to put an accessory apartment in
Right.
Falmouth, and it boom, 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 boom. It even had, what if I'm denied, what can I do afterwards?
that's what they want to see.
Yeah, well, I saw it.
Where was it?
I just Googled it.
On our website?
No, not on our website.
Oh, that's what we
And-
need
and
on
it-
the website.
And it just came up just through a web search.
Okay,
When I Googled Falmouth's affordable accessory apartment. bylaw.
okay.
And that came up. I don't know who put it together, but it was.
Was that the old accessory apartment bylaw?
I don't know.
But the old accessory apartment bylaw also had the same building
Yeah.
code issues.
Sure it did.
People are just saying,
Yeah.
well, it's on this one, but it's always
It's
been
always
there is the
been
point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a misconception that this new bylaw is fraught with building code problems. They've always been there.
Yeah, and $40,000 to $90,000, you can spend 40 grand on a kitchen.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
So,
And do the math what a rental is, how much money you can borrow if
okay.
you're getting a payment of $1,500 or $1,200 a month.
This was pointed out too. You're gonna be making money on these folks.
yeah.
It'll
Don't
pay for
expect to do it
itself.
for nothing. You know, you might have to take out a
There's no
loan.
magic dust
it.
you wipe it on and
Yeah.
everybody, you
Right.
know, you gotta,
It's an investment that you're gonna get a return on.
Yeah,
and the
So-
building code is tough and it gets tougher all the time. Every year or two.
Well, there was the hope of creating more affordable housing, but not necessarily for the current owner, is what it amounts to.
Right.
It's more affordable for the people who are going to go into the smaller unit, and
Right.
it will be there for a long time, and the current owners will recoup over time. But it is a communication thing, and it'd be good to have some link that would take you there.
exactly. And that's what they were talking about. The other thing is too, when you say the current owner, well, the current owner may want to be in the smaller unit. And
Eventually.
therefore gets better rental out of the larger unit.
Yeah.
So, now, a big thing was, the pushback was that minimum lot size, they think we should have limited lot size for these.
We had a lot of discussion
Yeah, I
on
know
that.
we did, and I told them that.
And I was the one that kept saying, everyone said, do the 10,000, do the 10,000, and I had Brian do a study.
I know you did.
How many lots would be eliminated if we did the 10,000 on the sewer? It was a huge amount.
I know, and I don't know where those numbers are, I don't,
But the point I'm going to make is, I think it should be, we do the site plan review. We decide if it's adequate or not for the parking on the site.
We do site plan and design review.
Design review, so we take a look at the structure, the shape of the lot, the size of the lot, where the cars are gonna park, how it fits, and if somebody can fit it, they get it. What I'm afraid of is if you make it 10,000 and there's 20 lots or 30 lots that are on the sewer, they're 9,500 square feet, and they're absolutely perfect. You remember I had brought in pictures
I know.
of
I
houses
do remember all that.
that were 8,000 and 9,000, and what they looked like, they had a garage over it, it'd be absolutely perfect, but this 10,000 square foot would eliminated them.
That's right.
And that is the argument that, I don't think the zoning board wants to give that up.
What problem are they trying to solve by sticking that in?
They just have arbitrarily 10,000 square feet.
Density.
Well, we're on the other side of that question, so we would just say no.
We can just say no.
It's,
That was easy.
well, if it's here's the thing, if it's inside the existing structure, it doesn't go to the zoning board. We decide if the lot
Right.
is adequate, through a site plan review, a hearing,
Yeah.
public discussion, and the shape of the lot.
And something that, when you read our bylaw, we don't always we reference other sections of the bylaw. We don't just rewrite them in every one. And one of the most important tenets of our bylaw is 24195C for us to follow.
Read it, please.
And, okay, the applicant shall submit such material as may be required regarding design features intended to integrate the proposed new development into the existing landscape to enhance aesthetic assets and to screen objectionable features from neighbors. Design features shall include, but not be limited to, site planning, building placement, building size, design, compatibility, exterior appearance, construction materials and finishes, parking and roadways, landscaping and site grading, building entrance and exit placement. So that's an important piece to what we do when we do site plan review
Those are the
and
pieces
design
that
review.
applied to the solution of the people who wanted the two separate houses looking very different from one another.
Yeah.
There was that piece that they had overlooked, and they went to the more apparently concrete and specified pieces instead.
Well, it applies to that which we just
Right.
voted tonight. This is site plan reviewed generically.
Yeah.
So,
So if the other thing that, where I'm coming from, is I've built 3 or 4 3-families on 12,000 3-families on 12,000 square foot lots in this town, and people like them. They look good. I live in one, 141 Locust Street. Another one is 504 Palmer Avenue and 26 Thomas Lane. And no one complains about them being ugly or not fitting, and none of them are on the sewer.
Yeah.
And they were all built within our bylaws. So, it can be done. I just think to arbitrarily put a 10,000 square foot thing on it, I think Brian mentioned there's hundreds of lots that would eliminate,
no, we would.
and I just thought it was a bad idea.
Earlier in the meeting, Bob was saying there are a lot of things in the zoning book, that could be considered a little bit of a mistake. And we're in the process of redoing that, and I hope that's not getting lost in all the confusion, that we have done the new contents and it's going to be moving on. That zoning book, which I've been trying to study and learn, is so confusing the way the material is presented. It has no graphics to make it easier to comprehend. The way that they have constantly repeated and repeated and repeated so that your eye just skips it and you've missed something you shouldn't. It's very in
They're trying
need
to
of
clean that up.
a need of
So,
improvement.
The they is we.
Well, no, it's Bob and Bob that are trying to
No,
clean it
no,
up.
but what you're
Us,
talking about,
we
the
need-
they, it was us. Not really, but it was our board that wrote that. Those bylaws were all written by the planning board.
What I'm asking for is graphics.
Right, no, I was being humorous with your pronouns, that's all.
Yes,
I
and
wasn't
I was
disagreeing with you.
apparently being insulting with my remark, and I didn't mean to be.
No.
One of the questions was another question, could it be simplified because they glaze over when they find they have to go to the ZBA, the planning board? And I said, no, you actually can't do that. We'd have to claw back the special permit. Because then you'd be affecting 2 other parts of the bylaw, site plan review, which is a nice large section, and design review. And so it would be easier to claw back special permit. And there was a lot of, no.
Well, I
So,
think one of the things that we kept talking about too is we wanted to write a bylaw that you didn't need to be a lawyer to interpret. And I think the way it's written is pretty straightforward. I think anybody can read that 800 square feet maximum or 40%.
40%, and yet, some of the applicants that come before us were not paying attention to that.
Right, yeah.
And that, to me, it would be unfair for all the debates we had over all the years when people said, oh, you can't do this because it's going to change our town and make everything a two-family, and we said, no, it's not.
right.
These are going to be accessory in size, shape, and appearance. And I think we can't leave that
Right.
mode, because it wouldn't,
Wouldn't be fair.
it's not what we did, it wasn't our intention.
No.
And we can't let people take us
Down that path.
down that path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because they need it, it needs to be I think the easiest thing to do is to put, if they really want to, design a small attachment to the side of the side of the rear of the house.
Sure.
Neighborhood doesn't even see it, make sure it's the right size. And if it only attaches through a breezeway, or,
Or not even.
well, not, but if it's attached through a small vestibule, you know, that touches 10 feet, all those building code issues are on that 10-foot wall. How much can it cost to
Right.
build
Right.
a 10-foot wall?
Right. There are ways of doing
There-
it. But that also then would determine the lot size that it
Right.
could go on.
Yes, if your lot isn't big enough, you can't do it, but that's why we took that all into consideration. And one thing, I know John and Bob know this, but if you're not on the sewer, and you have a 4-bedroom septic system, when you get your septic system approved, that septic system's gotta be 20 feet away from your basement, 10 feet away from each property line, and takes up maybe 1,000 square feet or 800 square feet of the lot. And on top of that, you gotta cite another one that's not even built. And it's called a reserve, and it takes another feet, and that hull has to fit in the lot. That has to be 20 feet away from your basement, and 10 feet away from other property lines. So my point was, with all the restrictions we already have in place, we don't need to layer on any more. And our goal in passing this bylaw was to make it easier, not harder. And I think that 10,000 feet would just eliminate too many units, and I'm the one that was pushing on that.
And a lot of them are gonna self-eliminate anyways,
Yeah,
so.
that's the important part. If they don't have the room, if they don't have the proper setbacks, and they're not the right size, and they don't have the right appearance,
Having our yard dug up to replace our cesspools with a 3-bedroom septic system.
and well, you don't see the reserve, but it's marked on the plan.
Oh, of course it is. That's the other side of our lot.
But that has to be 20 feet away from your basement and
Of
10
course it
feet from the
does.
property line.
Yeah.
So that's the self-regulating part of it.
Absolutely it is.
And even though I've heard a lot of complaints, has anyone seen this one that approved it's bad yet?
I don't think so. We haven't approved that many.
No, but I did. So with the ones we're moving towards approval, but,
I'm bringing these comments back to the board so that I don't sit there and just take it all in and you don't know what's going on. I think it is important that you know what these comments are, because certain ones we may choose to deal with, and others we may say, no, that takes away the intent of the bylaw.
But the conversations of the task force are leading, the goal of the task force is to come up with the amendments or changes that will make this more workable and aim toward what time frame?
Julian had said he envisioned 2 to 3 meetings. My guess is it's not going to be less than 3.
So the fall town meeting?
Oh, it would be the fall town meeting for any changes.
Right, this fall.
well, we're the ones that have to have the
Yeah.
public hearings, decide it, and push it forward.
Right.
And I can tell you, if I had to, I'm not ready to say this now, but I bet you if I did a lot of homework, you could convince me that a 7,200 square foot lot size would already be impossible to do it on anyway.
Really?
But I want to
I
study it.
bet it.
What I want to do is I want to take a look at 50 houses that are on 72 1,000 square foot lots that are on the sewer, and I'm gonna go look at them and say, yeah, that'll never fit, that'll never fit, that'll never fit. But remember when I brought pictures of 9,000 square foot lots that had a beautiful gambrel house, a
Yep.
2-car garage, you know, and it would be perfect to put a room up above, and that would have been wiped out. I said, none of these would pass if we agreed to this 10,000 square feet.
But you might not have to ever write that restriction and be stuck with it in some odd instance, because it's self-limiting in other ways. You
And
just-
we get to
Correct.
decide
You just
on this
don't
board if
need
we
it.
think it works or not.
Right. It could be that in going forward, and hopefully going forward for the fall thing, that we would want to be preparing these visuals of, here are possible ways of doing this that would make it more comprehensible.
I'm gonna obviously have to pull out my 10 examples and bring the pictures again for this
Yeah.
discussion, so people
Oh.
understand that point.
I would suggest that after these discussions are done, that we have a discussion here, and then we pull in these same people who are attending this, so that we can have a conversation as a board with them in some manner. I haven't thought that through at
But
this
keep in
point.
mind, we have to have the hearings, we have to draft the bylaw, we first approve it ourselves, and then we take it to town meeting.
Right.
No one else can take this amendment
No,
on
it
this
doesn't
bylaw
slip
to town
away.
meeting.
Yeah.
It has to come through us.
So our next meeting is March 14th.
I'm gonna prepare you, I'm gonna find those examples for lot size
Okay.
to bring to that meeting. So I honestly feel that the limitations on are already in there. It's self-limiting
Well, that was
already.
also pointed out. They just didn't want to get any smaller than that, in lot size and about 7,200 square feet. But there's no reason you would have a lot to accept it with what you currently have. And if the Board of Health will allow you to use the already existing septic system that has been approved.
Or if it's, when I'm worried about the size limitation if it's on the sewer. Just wipes out hundreds of them.
Correct. Whereas the lot configuration in and of itself will wipe out if they can't.
And here's the thing, somebody could buy a house, or a developer could buy a house and say, I'm gonna tear it down and start over, it's on the sewer, I'm gonna build it all to the building code, and by the way, I'm gonna have a 500 or 600 square foot accessory apartment built right into the structure. And it couldn't happen. And then he's gonna set, you know, he'll get it, get the special, not the special permit, but get the site plan review by us and then sell the house. So every single property, or most of the ones that I'm involved in and developing and selling, all are special permit first, then sold. And the beauty of it is, the person that buys it, if they don't stay up with the special permit rules and regulations, and 2 years later, it goes away. It reverts back to the existing zoning, and they gotta start all
A
over
major
again.
concern expressed with the smaller lots is they do not want the yard to look like a parking lot.
Right. So we're not
That
gonna
is a
say, we're gonna put in
huge
3
concern.
driveways or something like that.
Or even, okay, the lot right now, they park kind of in front of the house, and now you add an accessory, and now you've got 4 cars parked.
Or they design a hedge or something and they hide a car behind a hedge. It's a visual
Yeah.
on site plan review that we make that decision.
But that was a huge concern with smaller lots,
Yeah.
is that you're going to have a parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a 3,000 square foot house on a 3,000 square foot lot, not on the sewer, with 3 bedrooms on Nantucket Road in Falmouth Heights, and it's there, you know. So we've got them already.
Yeah.
Sure we do.
Yeah. Well, the house
that's
you live
not
in,
the point.
parking is in
No.
the back.
Yeah.
Everyone sees it.
You don't want to be adding to them, though.
Yeah.
And it could be you can put in some restriction that deals with, we're certainly planning on it for Davis Straits, side or back parking, not front.
It wasn't the accessory apartment bylaw, but when I tore down 141 Locust Street, on one side of the house, in the back lot, I put Leland cypress. They were this tall, now they go to the ceiling. It totally blocks out the neighbors, and very few people can see it. On the other side, I had wood lumber, and they had a chain link fence. but I paid a few $1,000s to have them, when they were redoing their fence, I had to weave the plastic inside the fence, the green, to make it so you can't see through. So you can't see my parking in the back of the lot. You go by 141 Locust Street, and it looks like a single-family home. It's a 3-family home with 9-car parking in the back. 9.
Lord, you just bumped right into one of my really major prejudices against green woven chain link fence. I was going right with you,
Well-
right till that.
Well, that's a commercial property. It's industrial zone land.
Yeah.
Their property's industrially zoned, not residential.
Yeah,
So that fence is on an industrial zone piece of property.
That's for security, too.
Yeah, and it's really to keep people out for them, not this way. But I think if you check it out, it can be landscaped pretty good. Now, granted, you go in the backyard, and the whole backyard's paved, and we are right up against the lot coverage. That's another thing that we have that controls us.
Lot
You're only
coverage.
allowed to have 40% of your lot paved. 20% for the house, 20% for the driveway. And we can't waive that either for an accessory apartment bylaw. That's,
So the underlying
self-controlling-
zoning and health rules and building code, they just don't go away.
is that a state rule or a local rule?
it's a zoning bylaw, lot coverage.
In our,
Single-family
Yeah,
zone,
I know it's in our book,
in
but
the
it's.
book, it's ours.
It's ours, okay.
So you can only have 40% lot coverage total by structure and paving. So if you have a lot of paving, you gotta have a smaller house, and then the 10% of the accessory apartment size all balances out. I think there's balance in the bylaw myself.
Yeah.
Is the point that
oh yeah.
I'm trying to make.
So I would ask you, the point of getting this in print, is there a message that you want me to take back to the next meeting on the 14th? And that, I'm getting loud and clear that no, we prefer not to have restrictions on lot size. Because that would cut out anything that's on the sewer.
Because of all the restrictions that are already in place that are gonna quash something if it doesn't meet those conditions.
And
Because
we're
there
the
are
ones
a
that
lot
have to
of
make that decision.
Well, it should come to us first, well in advance of a separate unit going to the ZBA, but that may not happen sometimes.
Right, but I'm all set to give the ZBA the separate, when there's another structure, because that's a whole different ballgame.
I'm not arguing that, I'm just
But
saying,
what-
you said it comes to us first.
What I'm talking about is all the Cape Cod-style houses with 2-car garages that have a second floor above the garage that's perfect, that are on less than 10,000 square feet.
Well, and Patty,
Yeah, Patty's trying to do the same.
trying to
yeah.
get that through town.
She's trying to add 2 more feet,
Yeah.
because
Then you'd have enough to do this kind of thing.
yeah, so
So
that's
is there
the,
anything else? Take back, no, we don't agree with you about the lot size restriction.
that's certainly my opinion. John, what do you feel about that?
I just am happy that they're having the discussion, and some good things will come out of it. As we said, there's no perfect bylaw. This one isn't perfect. It's good, but it's not perfect. So if they can help us fine tune it and make it better, I'm glad that they're having the discussion.
So am I.
Right.
I truly think that the most critical part of that is that the Board of Health decides, because we had the chairman, and then we have Steve Rafferty there, who's also on that, saying, we've got to decide, we have to make some decisions here, because they do have some options as to what they can do, so they have to make their own policy. Then that will further define what can be done for
Correct.
the applicants.
Yeah, that's a big hurdle.
That's like a first step that has to be done.
Correct.
So has everyone received a copy of Pat's notes from this meeting?
Yes,
Yeah.
Corey sent them out,
Yes.
and I will continue to do the same kind of thing.
Well, let's try to prepare a little bit, little homework assignment for everybody. I mean, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull out the exact same houses that I pulled
That I
out the
can
last
present to
time.
them.
To say this, if you made this lot, these 10 examples would not be acceptable, and we think they're perfect.
And I can just pass that around.
They can just pass it
If
around.
You printed them out.
Yeah,
think,
I
so.
can print them.
Yeah.
I can search.
Yeah, because we didn't have the AV.
No, I could do hard copy and share them, And subsequently, if somebody feels, well, we don't have one that doesn't work yet, you can't show me one that we've approved, they're kind of like saying, well, they're worried we're gonna do something inappropriate. You know, that we're gonna approve a site plan that's not approvable.
Yeah.
Because we're not sticking by a strict rule.
But it's not, Pat, that we're saying we don't agree with them, because the way I read this, there was a lot of discussion, but in fact, it was also recognized that lot configuration, your point, Jim,
Absolutely.
may have more bearing on whether or not it could be added. So they're cognizant of that. So you would just report back that we reviewed that, and here's information that
You
shows
could
you
have a
that that's
hammerhead
true.
lot with a
Yeah,
a
and they know
30,
that.
10-foot wide, half-acre stretch going out in the back.
They couldn't do anything.
And it would be qualified, but we would never approve it. So
True.
there's an argument on both sides of that, you know, that,
But the other thought you might want to, I would like you to carry back to them, is that we appreciate all the difficulty they're having downstairs trying to implement this positively, is partially because it's new and therefore it's confusing, and we think that graphic examples would help tremendously and think they should be added.
To the bylaw.
People should see it.
yeah, examples of what, you said graphic examples, the ones they're having trouble with,
No, of what's
of
possible.
what's possible,
No,
right?
positive examples,
That's easy enough to do.
I
right.
think the impression people got was, oh, all I have to do is design something, get a building permit, and it's done.
That's the impression they had.
And-
Right.
and that's-
I don't know how they got that impression
That's
from
it,
us.
it's just a misunderstanding that needs to be cleared up.
Well, I think it was, I don't want to use it it was not right to assume that anything that's sport can change the state building code. That was a mistake. If anyone thought that was what we were doing, that was totally a bad
We
thought.
said that all along.
I said it 10 times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Board of Health, building code, wetlands
Site-
laws.
Wetlands laws,
Yeah.
then it goes into our court. After those,
After
they
those are all
rule.
satisfied.
After all
But
those-
except for the people who come with lawyers and have spent time with their lawyers, people don't understand the complexity of that. So you can tell them that, but that doesn't really convey the detail of the issue.
We had hoped to avoid pulling a lawyer in and all that expense. We had hoped to have them even do hand drawings, bring them in front of us and say, can we do this? Rod Palmer, that's why he prefers to sit down and talk with the people individually. Because he can suggest, well, maybe you can do it this way.
Well, it's wonderful he's willing.
He is willing. He's
Yeah, that's
really
great.
very nice about that. He's got a good personality to do this kind of thing, I believe.
And Sari is very helpful.
Yes.
I have a client that wants one of these things, and I looked at it and said, boy, I'm not so sure this is gonna work, because it happens to be one that's gonna need a special permit. So I went and talked with her, and she gave me all kinds of ideas how to get things done.
Yeah,
And my client's son-in-law is a builder. I laid it all out for them, and they're working on it. But I didn't make it up myself. I knew it was a special permit, so I went to Sari, and she gave me how they measure the area of the finished home.
sure.
And she gave me some flexibility. She said well, are there any of those areas in the basement finished? And I said, yeah. We said, well, as far as the zoning board, they take that into consideration.
Wow.
So if you're wrestling with trying to get a couple 100 feet, and you already have
Living space in
living
the
space in the
basement.
basement,
That counts.
you put it on your worksheet.
Would it be living space for which you had a permit, or living space?
Well,
for
you're
you-
bringing it to the zoning board of appeals, yeah.
Yeah,
See, maybe it's just a matter of having an improved worksheet that lists, okay, you want to do this, step one, bing, step two, and write down the list.
That's the kind of thing I was talking about, that could
Yeah.
be on the town website.
Yeah.
Fill it out and see whether you're
Yeah.
eligible to do
Yeah.
it.
Just like we used to do with certain taxes, you used to do a worksheet to see if you
I-
file this way or file
I can tell you,
another
if you think this bylaw is complicated, I invite every one of you to go down to the building department and pick up their worksheet on the buildability of a lot. And you try to follow that. And they have a sheet down in the building department, they have a rack with all how-to-dos. They're all there. And they have a
Yeah.
buildability
Yeah.
worksheet.
Yeah,
And it's a bugger to follow.
yeah. Well, even a building permit for a house with
Yeah.
window calculations and all this other stuff, it's crazy.
I haven't seen it yet, but I heard they actually, John, you know this, do they actually put like a vacuum on the house and test it for air
Yeah.
leakage before you get
On-
your certificate
on
of
new homes,
occupancy?
yes.
Yep, the blower test,
The blower test?
yeah,
Yeah, blower door test
yeah.
What if you're adding
Whoa.
on to an ancient house like we are?
on new houses.
Oh, new
house.
houses, I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
catch that, okay.
Is that even healthy?
It's not, it's a sick house.
Let's not digress
Oh.
too far.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to point out how difficult building is and the new codes, and
Yeah.
people shouldn't be surprised, it's really
It is,
hard.
right.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard, and we're not addressing building codes.
So I
Okay.
will take these
Okay.
couple of
I said that.
comments back the next time, and you'll get me the
I'll,
pictures that I can show them.
I'll
as
do
to-
some work. Everyone should do some work if we can to bring examples.
And well,
When's our
Okay.
next meeting?
I don't
The
know when our.
13th?
March
13th,
13th.
so
March
it's just
13th.
before the 14th,
Yeah.
how's that?
Yeah,
Right.
So that's
Okay, so
convenient.
bring
to-
examples.
yeah.
We'll,
This will be tricky. We'll have to really learn it now.
yeah.
Well, remember, these are more generic discussions that are going on, and how often does the Board of Health meet? They just brought it up on Monday. Is it twice a month or once a month?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, okay. So this is their meeting, the one meeting before our next meeting with this group. And John, you were there and you heard, they just started to discuss it.
They were discussing, I didn't stay for the whole meeting though. so-
Okay,
So they may have come to more of a decision, but I can't answer that.
Okay, general correspondence. Is this Patty Johnson? No, who's this? Is another Johnson. This is a zoning board, do we even,
Yeah, this,
is this not even appropriate to us? This letter's
I have
regarding a
no
special
idea
permit
why-
for, what?
No, I have no idea why Melinda put that in there.
No, this,
yeah, it's nothing before us.
it's nothing before us. I don't want to hide it from anybody, but there's an application for a special permit to create a bed and breakfast at 25 Harbor, and somebody has a comment, they've sent it to Mr. Palmer, and it's included to us.
Were you
but
copied?
We're copying.
Planning
on it.
board copied,
right.
that's probably
So
why.
we're just copying on it, but we have nothing to say. It's not an issue. This doesn't come before us in site plan review. It doesn't come before us in design review. So, we've discussed it. If you need to, it's a zoning issue, you can check on that. Any future agenda items?
I think just keep what we've been putting on there. I think we wait till we get a new town planner in place, where we start hitting them with other things.
We should give them maybe a week or two to
oh, why?
up to speed. That was a joke. Corey's looking at me like, oh boy, I was kidding. I don't know if anyone even got the where joke that you made earlier, Bob. It kind of went over everybody's head.
We did.
I don't think Mr. Ahmed did, but,
He was annoyed.
yeah. Then the next meeting is March 13th, one day before
That joint
the joint meeting.
workshop, whatever.
So, I'm gonna try to do some homework and bring some examples to help Pat carry forward on that. If anybody else,
Just generically, I would like to say, if anybody's listening to us, that I do believe that that joint meeting of the 7 boards, this meeting of these representatives from different boards to discuss this, the bylaw, it's the first time these sorts of meetings have been happening since I have been on the planning board. And I think it's marvelous that people are starting to talk to each other and communicate as they are. You said that, John, and I am just underlining it.
Good.
okay, and there's one thing that is, there is another meeting coming up before this that is gonna be posted, and we're having a social meeting. And every board is gonna
Oh,
go
right.
on record, and we have been given an assignment we are doing the appetizers for this social meeting.
No kidding.
What is
Yes.
the date on that? There were two dates
It is the
possible.
9th.
The 9th, okay.
The
I got to
9th of
pick it
March.
because we asked.
I know. because-
So, no, but on the list that I have seen, and I don't know if you've all got it yet, if you haven't, it's because I haven't sent it to you, but we are responsible for appetizers.
Okay.
A couple other boards are too, not the only one. So if anyone has a really good,
Look at him, look at the women on the board. I think you should address your remarks to your right.
Yeah, right. He's looking at us.
well,
isn't
wait
he?
a second, I'm gonna say that I'm probably a better cook than anybody, and I'm gonna take care of what, I'm gonna bring a lot of it, okay?
Will help.
I have some great ideas. I'm asking for your assistance. What the letter that's coming out, it says, bring your specialty.
Oh,
And
okay.
But our board is all appetizers.
Okay.
Other boards have desserts,
crackers.
other boards. So it's Friday, the 9th, from like 5 to 7:30 or 8.
Okay, great.
It's something that came out of the
And where's
big
it gonna
meeting.
be?
It's gonna be at the Falmouth Yacht Club.
Okay.
This will be all the boards meeting and drinking? This will be wild.
It actually has a liquor license there, and there's be a cash bar.
Right?
Well, the idea was to meet socially and
Yeah.
have fun together
Right.
instead of just arguing with each other all the time. And this is really Sue Moran's
I know it is, yes.
idea.
Yeah, it's a great
which
idea.
I jumped on pretty hard, but, it doesn't, you say party, I say where. So
Where
that-
again?
So, but anyways, we do have to figure that out amongst ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
we can communicate.
the
The night before is Soup for the Soul, Falmouth High School thing. There's tickets at Coffee O. And what you do is you buy a ticket, and the kids have made bowls and cups and things. And you pick a bowl or cup that the kids have made, and they have soup. And you kind of meet in the cafeteria.
you buy the bowl?
Well, that's what the ticket is
Give-
paying
Yeah.
for. It's a fundraiser for them. I think we should adjourn because that was just off the agenda.
Okay, no, but I wanted to say, I'm gonna act as the clearinghouse for what you're gonna make.
For
Send it-
appetizers.
The appetizers, send it to me, actually, it's not gonna be my.
That's so
my-
there are no duplicates?
Amongst us, yeah. We're gonna, my assistant and daughter Jessica's really gonna coordinate
I
that.
know she will.
Okay, not me. All right,
I move for adjournment.
Second.
not debatable, we're out.